Good morning. Today, I'd like to talk about Chapter 9 on our journey from through the lifespan in developmental psychology. Welcome back. You'll notice a difference in surroundings. Today, I'm in my office at school. I like being here. I like home too because the folks there, but I like being here too because I have a better camera. Probably some other reasons too. I work with some great people. Anyway, that's what I like being here. One, many reasons, the many people. Let's get into chapter 9. Sorry, getting a little nostalgic there. Today we're looking at adolescence, the back end of it, the psychological, the physical and the cognitive aspects more pertain in my mind with the beginning of adolescence, as in, welcome to adolescence. Here's this new body that you have that's developing. Here's a new mind that you're having to get to know and you learn how to work. But the second half, the the back end of adolescence is now that we have the physical and the mental business straightened up, let's look at the sociological aspects, so the psychosocial aspects of adolescence, which to me has to do with our interactions with other people in preparation for the real world and the world of work and careers and marriage and children, all of that kind of stuff, whatever you want to do. So essential to psychosocial development or socio-emotional development, I don't know which your textbook calls it, the idea is based on identity. If you've been tracking with us psychosocially with the stages, we've gone from infancy, where we're dealing with trust, to autonomy. Okay, so if you have the foundation of people you can fall back on if you need them, then you can become independent. And then to that, we get initiative. So if you can do it yourself, you can do it your own way, make your plan. And to that, we add industry. So we start to understand what are we good at and what we're not good at. And then we're going to go to the next step, which is identity. So all of that stuff, all of that trust, autonomy, initiative, industry goes to help us to understand who we really are. Um, we go into this stage of adolescence and identity with a search, because up until that point, mostly our identity is described to us by our parents, caregivers, teachers, and then by our friends and peers. I remember one day I was in my psychology lab, which is the food court at Patrick Henry Mall, and listening to some subjects at another table. And the little girl says to her mother, she's talking about her boyfriend. She says, "Oh, Mom, he is my everything." And I thought inside, I'm kind of cringing and say, "Oh my gosh, not my daughter." Of course, I don't have a daughter, but wouldn't want my child to feel like the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is the whole world. Is the whole point. But I get in this, we have all been there in early adolescence, that we look to other people to tell us who we are. What is our value? And that's primarily coming from other people, I think. At the middle to later part of adolescence, we start to answer that question more for ourselves. You can't tell me who I am anymore. I am figuring that out. We're going to carry that identity business into the world of work, hopefully. And going to school, what is going to be our major? Kind of job do I want? All of that is really important. It's really important to be able to say, this is who I am authentically. I'm going to be who I am. What does this mean? I mean, there's aspects of your personal faith, religion. There's aspects of ethnicity, community, that kind of thing. People like me. What does that mean? Who is like me? Also, sexual preference is part of that too. If that's part of your identity, well, it's part of your identity, whether you really think about it or not. But all of those questions really come together to establish not just who you are, but who do you feel like you are? What are the words that you really use to describe yourself? Um, this is essential in making choices. This is essential also in esteeming yourself and seeing your value. I have value. I have value as a person and who I am. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, that I don't make mistakes, but I look at those mistakes as mistakes that I've made. Generally, I'm a pretty good, nice person, pretty sharp, pretty smart, but even more than that, I got a good heart, and so that's my identity. That's really establishing who I am, so I can esteem myself from that. This is really essential. This is where I would like you to get with this. It's not just seeing your own value, but adding to that value for other people. I asked you a question about why do you think that kids shoot up schools? Well, there is that right there. Is do we see each other as just another little pile of chemicals that haphazardly seem to come together to make that person, that human being, or whatever? Or do we see that as some kind of unique, wonderful, purposeful creature there that has inherent value? All right, let's build on this. Let's look at relationships. This is what this chapter talks about. Relationships, romantic relationships. What does this mean? Romance. What is love? This is a question of I'm going to ask you to answer for yourself. What do you feel like love is? Because there is an essence of that, of loving yourself and loving other people, um, that is part of this question. You can't just love, we have to love something or someone. Um, why and what does that mean? This is the age in adolescence that we start to play with this idea of romantic relationships. And most everybody has some kind of romantic relationship. Add to this the question of sexuality, sexual behavior. Um, remember, I'm like a Macbeth's father's ghost or whatever, showing up on the scene, giving you the heaviness. But the heaviness here is, remember what I said about where babies come from. But this is the deal with sexual behavior. You see, this is the honest part of talking about sexual behavior. I'm sorry if I offend anyone. Some people, I guess, never talk about it, but I will, because it is important, and it's an important part of adolescence. It's the time where a lot of adolescents do engage in sexual behavior, at least to some degree. And if you didn't, or you don't believe in that, then that's fine. There's value to that. But all of this is dependent on the value that we put on another person. Is that other person really there just because that person has the sexual organs that we want to use? Sorry, but that's reality. All right. Add to this also, the whole idea of pregnancy, contraception, sexually transmitted diseases. All of these are aspects of this question of sexual behavior. This being developmental psychologist, this is not. I'm not really trying to go one way or the other as far as morality. What I'm trying to do is get you to understand two things. One, it's important to think about these things. what happens and why. And then the second thing is because this is the time where we're really starting to define ourselves. You want to understand yourself as being interactive in these relationships. To what degree do you let other people define you like that? Now, let's go to a different context of identity, and that's the world of work and choosing a career. One of the ways that we see adolescents particularly engaging in this is choosing part-time jobs and doing part-time jobs. Good way to learn about the world of work, but it's also a good way to learn about ourselves. What do we really like? Do you like working with other people? Do you not like working with other people? Do you like surfing? Do you like being your own boss? So all those questions are important. Okay. A third context that I believe is important in identity is trying to understand ourselves in the choices that we make. Not necessarily just moral issues, but legal and illegal issues about like drug use and alcohol use, and then going into more of the dark side, like suicidal thoughts and depression and delinquency. And all of these are this is a context in which we really are exploring who are we. Most of us probably have done things in the past that we wouldn't do again, or we think were the wrong choices. Um, I do believe that that's part of human development, part of the developmental psychology. Just like when you go, if you ever go to buy clothes, you put on some clothes and you go, that's not me. That doesn't look good. And that's what we do with our behavior. Sometimes we do something, it's illegal or the wrong thing. And all along, we might know that that's not something that we would do, but we did it. And so we go, that does not look good on me, you see. And so I think try to be a little open-minded with that because, of that's, the choices that people make are part of who they are. Anyway, that's my thoughts on chapter 9. I'll see you again for chapter 10, and I hope you're having a great week and take care of yourselves.